Actor's Choice, where the actors have a chance to talk about themselves and their careers. Join us now for the next hour as we explore the marvelous industry of acting through actors and actresses from today's exciting show business world. And now, here's your host, Ron Brewington.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ron Brewington, and welcome to the Actor's Choice. Our guest today is a renowned veteran actor and director. He's recognized worldwide by millions of fans for his starring roles in nearly 100 television, film, and stage projects, including 2 Academy Award-nominated films, A Soldier's Story and District 9. When you say Moesha, his handsome face and name immediately comes to your mind. He's currently the star of the hit CBS TV series Code Black. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome William Allen Young. Thank you, William.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me, man.
My pleasure. So I wouldn't have it no other way. First, where are you originally from?
Originally from Washington, D.C. And people who know D.C., you kind of have to designate what part. Well, we were in Northwest.
Northwest.
Yeah.
Crabs, I loved it.
Oh, man. And it's still a wonderful place. My mother's side of the family is from D.C., and my father's side of the family is from California. So when he got out of the service, he was in Maryland. He liked the area, stayed there, met my mother, and started raising a family there. And when the job market dried up for him, that's why he needed to come back home. And we made that trek all the way across the country to come to California.
Wow. Now, while you were in D.C., you were living in an inner-city housing project?
Mm-hmm. Actually, in D.C., we were in Northwest, and when we came to California, we lived in the Nickerson Garden Housing Project.
Nickerson Garden?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, especially in L.A., you know the Nick. It's still there right there on Imperial and Central. Mm-hmm. And we started out in the Nick, and that's where we really kind of felt everybody lived.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You also had to overcome physical restraint during your childhood?
Yeah, I had a couple of challenges. I was born with a foot deformity, and one of the things that the hospital did was fitted me with these orthopedic shoes. Anybody who's ever seen orthopedic shoes, they never look nice. No. The huge, clunky shoes and with these huge heels, and mine came halfway up my leg, and the whole point was to straighten out my feet. And so over a period of time with a limiter in between, a restrictor, it did work. But for that period of time, there was the villain in most of the movies at that time was Frankenstein, who had these big shoes. So when I would go to school and walk around the neighborhood, people would call my shoes Frankenstein shoes. So, and you're a young kid trying to build your self-esteem, that is not the handle you want.
No. Not in this town.
No.
Your mother worked hard.
Yeah. Yes.
She dropped out of high school.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Didn't have an education, but she was raising 7 children.
Yeah. I mean, to me, one of my greatest inspirations is my mother, because I was there watching that story unfold as a child. And you don't know exactly what's going on, but I just remember my mother on her hands and knees always scrubbing and cleaning and washing, and you know, she did what she could with what she had. Mm-hmm. And I think that one of the things that was important for her is she didn't want to drop out of school. She had to because of the circumstances in the family. But she always wanted to get back into school and to finish what she started. And we could see that in her eyes. She talked about it. And she really inspired us to, if nothing else, to always value education. Mm-hmm. And we saw why, because she had to work so hard without it. So after raising a family, or while raising a family, my mother went back to fulfill that dream. And she went back to Jordan High School at night, because we lived right in Watts. Mm-hmm. And she finished her high school diploma program there. And she didn't stop. She got a job working for Kaiser Hospital as a maid. And so she was cleaning the floors and scrubbing the walls and doing all that for Kaiser now. And while she was there, she met a doctor who asked her, how long are you going to be down on your knees? And my mother didn't understand what the question was, because she said, well, you know, I'm going to be down here for a while, and then I'll get those rooms and that hall next. And I said, no, listen to me. How long are you going to be down on your knees? They knew she didn't have her high school diploma, but she was working on it. And once she finished it, they told her, come on and start another program in the medical profession. She's again at Ford College. So she ended up going to LA Trade Tech College. They had a special program. And she ended up getting her nursing license there. And so she completed that, went back to Kaiser, dropped the bucket pail and all of that, and put on the nursing outfit. And she ended up spending a number of years, almost 30 years, working for Kaiser, and retired with a distinguished career there. And I saw all of that, Ron. Yes. And watching all of that, to this day, I have an unshakable belief in the power of education to transform lives. It is not a theory for me. I saw it. It literally allowed my mother to get up off of her knees and realize her life's dream. If you take education out of the equation of my mother's life, she's still on her hands and knees. And I believe that the similar thing happens when you take education out of the equation of people's lives who are struggling and don't know how to get to the next level. Education, powerful. And my mother's life is evidence of that.
Oh. And of course, what it did to you, it just sets your life. It just, the way your attitude, the way you think.
Oh, absolutely. My father was a craftsman and just so creative and artistic, and I believe that that's where I get in my DNA, that part of it. The whole focus on education, hard work, determination, never say die, always be striving to be the best. My mom really set it down, and I think that if you look at my career, if you look at my personal life, my relationship with my wife, my parenting of my sons, all of that is a reflection of those elders that came before me, that I wasn't confused. I think that there's some people who are confused because they don't have anybody else ahead of them on the track to follow. No mentors to guide, no elders to watch, no stories to have read to them to say, this is the road that they took, then why not me? Well, my life is just the opposite. I had all of that. We didn't have economic resources readily available to us, but it was clear that if we could find a way, we knew what the way looked like. And when you have that, the rest is up to you.
Wow. I guess I don't have to say that your mother's proud of you.
My mother, to this day, is one of my closest friends. In fact, I was talking to her on the way to the radio station, and she prayed that we have a good session together.
What's your mother's name, please?
My mother is Joan Walker, and in the church she's known as Mother Joan Walker. She's the state supervisor of women for the California Southwest Ecclesiastical Jurisdiction, and has been in that role for 20 years and been in the church all of her life. So that she's known as Mother Walker.
Wow. So when through your life, what point in your life did the acting bug bite you?
So at around 13, since I had some challenges early on, my self-esteem was a little beat up. And I was just like most young boys at that rite of passage age, becoming a teenager. Ron, I was just trying to figure out, so what's my thing? My older brother Roger was articulate, intelligent, handsome. He was a student body president, a class president, and I looked up to him because he wasn't doing it through athletics. He was just a natural-born leader. And I thought, I'll never be him. He's just too far ahead of me. And my sister Diane was doing great things. So I was just trying to find my place. I wasn't athletically gifted. So I tried football, but I realized that wasn't going to work. Tried baseball, that wasn't going to work. So at 13, you get 2 electives when you're in middle school, right? And at Gompers Junior High School, yes, my counselor, Miss Lewis, asked me to meet her in the auditorium because I was late signing up for my elective. I had done one, I needed the other one. While I'm in the auditorium, Mr. Crum, who was the drama teacher, walks in, and behind him was a group of students in tow. And I knew all of them from school, but they were auditioning for the school play. So he told them, he said, warm up, I'll give you 5 minutes, and then we'll just go one by one, just whoever wants to start. And I watched them do this. I'm sitting about halfway back in the theater by myself quietly, and each one gets up, and they go up and they do their audition. And then the next one, and then the next one. And while they were on that stage, Ron, I'm watching them transform themselves into these characters. And even these students who I knew, some of them lived in the neighborhood. We walked to school together. I didn't know them when they went through the transformation. So this was like a magic trick to me. And while I was sitting out there, I watched this magic trick unfold, student after student after student. And then Mr. Crum turned and says, all right, you're going to go or what? because he thought that maybe I was there to do that. And I had watched them enough to see what they were doing. It only took about 2 or 3 minutes, but you could do whatever you wanted. So I got up there and I did a poem that my mother had taught me. And I got a role in the play. It was called Young Souls. That's when the bug bit me. And after that, every year of my life, from 13 years on, I was involved either in school or professionally out in the community in training to become an actor.
Now, you know there's a difference between training and education.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a problem. They don't understand that. But you got I always say training gives you a certificate.
Yes.
And education gives you a diploma or
Absolutely.
a degree.
Yeah, and both valid, but in the academic world, what you learn is an academic lesson.
Yes.
And so that's valuable. People can get a degree in theater arts, and that's an academic lesson, and you'll get some training there. But when you train to become a dancer, an actor, a painter, or whatever it is, you are working with professionals in that field. You're actually plying the art. It's not theory. You have to be doing it. So a dancer must dance. An actor must go to the stage and perform in a play. And it's that on-the-job training that is the only thing that makes you an artist. You cannot learn art from a book. You can learn about the history of it, the academics of it. But to become an artist, you must paint. You must draw.
Get your hands dirty.
You have to do it.
You gotta do that, yeah.
So luckily, when I was going to school, I don't know how much it's still there, but there was community theater and professional regional theater. In L.A., we were blessed to have the Inner City Cultural Center, the Watts Writers Workshop, the Mafundi Institute. There were a lot of places you could go, and I was fortunate to go to one of the places that I know you have some history with as well.
Oh yeah, C. Bernard Jackson.
Absolutely.
Never met the gentleman,
Yeah.
but his name lives on.
Oh yeah, I mean what he started was so incredibly necessary to give an avenue for young people like me to become professional actors. And if you look at the lineage of great actors who came out of the Inner City Cultural Center in Los Angeles, Art Evans and Denzel Washington, all of the people, Sam Jackson, that place was just phenomenal, and it was the mecca for young actors of color to go through. We didn't know where else to go.
And when you say color, George Takei went there also.
Absolutely.
So everybody they weren't just blacks, they were
Latino actors, Asian actors, the East-West players that formed in East LA. A lot of them started at that place.
Marvelous.
And I was at Inner City training to become a professional actor while I was at Gompers and at Locke High School after that, trying to get my diploma.
Wow. So then when you got time to get out of high school and go to college, you chose one of the best schools in this town.
Yeah.
We call it the University of Southern California, or as we like to say, SC.
Yeah, USC really was the place I always wanted to go to as a kid.
Yes, sir.
But again, we lacked the economic resources, and I really just didn't know how to get there, Ron. I didn't know what would be my end. Again, I was not a football player, and I saw those guys running the pigskin and knew that they were there on scholarship, but I didn't know how I could get there. So actually my route to USC went through El Camino College.
Okay.
And El Camino College is where I started, and while I was there, I took a speech class. And while I was in the speech class, Professor Lee saw me and said, "You're pretty good." He says, "Would you like to join our speech and debate team?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I mean, what do I have to do?" And he says, "Well, I want you to go to a friend of mine, Dr. Lilienthal, and he is going to bring you into the program." I said, "Well, how many other students are in it?" He says, "You, if you choose to join." So I became the first person on the team, and while I was on the team, went to the national championship and won. And while I was there, one of the 10 judges at the finals in Chicago was the Professor John C. DeBross. And after it's over, he says, "What are you doing at a community college?" I said, "Because I don't know how to get to the college I really want to go to." And he said, "What is that?" I said, "USC." He says, "Is this a joke?" I said, "No." He says, "Son, take this card." And when he handed me the card, it said, "Professor John C. DeBross, head Trojan." It was irony or divine intervention that the man who judged me in my finals was the man who hands out scholarships for people on the speech and debate team at USC.
Wow.
That's how I got a full scholarship to go to USC, majoring in rhetoric and debate. And while I was at USC, the next divine intervention was meeting a man by the name of John Houseman. one of the most pivotal figures in stage and film in America.
Yes.
He and Orson Welles produced War of the Worlds. But while I was at USC, John Houseman came the same year I came to USC to be the director and dean of the theater department there. And they had a play that he was producing and directing. It was his first project at USC. And I went to audition for the lead role, and I got the lead role. And while I was auditioning for him, he called me down off the stage, and he said, "Young man, where are you from?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm from Los Angeles." He says, "No, where are you from?" He said, "I've never heard of you. I've never seen you." He says, "But you just did what you did for me." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "You have the role." And I played the lead role of Ozdoc in Caucasian Chalk Circles, written by Bertolt Brecht, a really difficult play. And that was the beginning of my relationship with John Houseman, and it put my name in print at USC. And everything else took off after that. John Houseman brought me to his office one day after we did that play, and he said, "William, there's a phone between you and me." He said, "I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to call my agents to set up an interview with you, if you want." He says, "But before you do, let me talk to you for about 10 minutes. And for about 10 minutes, I got a lesson that I'll never forget from one of the, you open up the history books, John Houseman is there.
One, yes.
He was my mentor.
Yes.
And he told me the good, the bad, the ups and the downs of a career, trying to make a career in Hollywood. And then after it's over, he says, "So, do I pick up that phone?" I said, "Yes." And I think I said yes before he finished the sentence. And so I went to have an audition with, or an interview with Bressler, Wolf, Coda, and Livingston. They were the agents for John Houseman, Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, Steve Reeves. They had 18 Academy Award winners in their stable, over 50 Emmy Award winners. I'm a kid from Watts at USC who just signed with one of the biggest agencies in the business in Beverly Hills, and all of a sudden after that, audition after audition after audition, role after role after role, and it just started snowballing faster than I thought. I wasn't quite prepared for how quickly it started to happen.
Now, when you got to USC, what year did you get there?
I got to USC in 79.
79.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
About the same time you did your first role.
Yes.
In the movies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But when you at USC, you led them to a national championship, and it
Yeah.
wasn't football.
That's what blows people's mind. The thing that was so interesting is while I was at USC, John Houseman used to say, "You're walking on two separate train tracks." He says, "How long can you do this?" So I had a scholarship in speech and debate. I was traveling with the speech and debate team to honor my scholarship. So you had to go everywhere the team dictated that you would go. Since I was one of the leaders of the team, I was going everywhere. Almost every state in America I went to or visited to compete, because USC went wherever the tournaments were open. And it was very successful and gained points towards national competition. You had to qualify to go compete at the national level. And every year I qualified. So the first year I went, I broke the record, the national record, and won the title of the pentathlon champion. That's the person who is deemed the #1 college speaker in the nation. The second year I went back and I did it again, and I beat my own record. And that record to this day still stands. Yeah. So the beauty of it was I was so enjoying that, but at the same time, I was acting in almost every stage play that they had. So I really had to try to find a way to navigate so that I didn't lose my scholarship over here and didn't lose my good standing in the theater department. And at that point, I was working with the master's program, even as an undergraduate. So I was successful on so many fronts, and I think that the only way I was able to do it, Ron, honestly, is I was young. I didn't know that you couldn't do it. I didn't know it was impossible to do, and it was my naivete and I think just my ambition to just want to be the best that just kept driving me. But I lost out on a social life. I didn't go to any of the parties. I never went to a football game at US, even though they gave us 2 tickets every year. But I was so busy doing what I did that I was able to establish the beginnings of my career and also leave a legacy for USC, who won the national championship while I was there. So
That means you beat out Harvard, Yale, Princeton.
they were all there. Yeah, everybody goes to the national championship. In fact, an interesting story, when you pull up to wherever it is, and it bounces around. The first year I went for USC, it was in New York, and then the second year I think was in Washington, D.C. And when you pull up to register, it's the day everybody registers, National Day of Registration for the National Championship in Speech and Debate. Everybody pulls up. And it's also a day of intimidation. So Morehouse is there, Spelman is there. The Morehouse men get off the bus and greet the Spelman. So that's their signature. Yes. Harvard pulls up in 4 or 5 buses. And one of the buses holds all of their briefs. So they get off with these huge evidence briefs, and they go past everybody as if to say, it's over.
Yeah.
Don't. What are you here for?
Don't me.
That's it. So we get off, and our team is not as big, obviously.
Yes.
And I'm watching all of this, and I say to my one of my coaches, Becky, and I said, so who was the national champion out here? She points to that person and says, Meg Langford. Over there, before her, Chicky Verban. Before her, Michael. And these former champions are getting off the bus. And I said, and they're here to compete, huh? She said, yeah. She said, look, just do the best you can.
That's all you can do.
In my mind, though, the son of Roger and Joan Young, I was there to win number 1. Whether it happened or not was to be seen. But I was so young, and I really wanted to be the best.
Yes.
Maybe I overdrove myself, but from day one, that was my goal. And so after you compete for 2 weeks,
Right.
and it's an attrition rate. People are packing up, going home, and then the people that are left are the top 10 in each category.
Yes.
They will be ranked the 10th in the nation, 9th in it.
Gotcha.
So across the board, there's 10 categories. I'm in 5 of them, so I've survived 5. And out of the 5, I won first place in 4 of them, and won 6th place in the other, and amassed so many points leading up that I didn't even know. But by the time we got to the finals, unless I fell on my face, if I came in 10th in all places, I had amassed so many points, I was probably going to get the trophy. But so focused,
Yeah.
that was the key to it. Just stay focused and always strive to be the best.
William, I hear something that screams loudly at me. It's called attitude. You've got a great attitude.
Wow, yeah.
I always say your attitude will determine your altitude.
I believe it.
A lot of folks don't understand that.
Yeah.
Took me a while to understand that.
Well, maybe it took me a while too, but again, I think that came from those people ahead of me.
Yes.
I never saw my mother quit. I never saw my father quit.
Amen.
And even though it's interesting, when we were on the plane going to Washington, D.C. or New York, whichever one was the first one, all of these people, Stanford was on the plane, and on the plane, even among my teammates, there were some of them telling jokes about people who lived in Watts. And then it occurred to me, they don't know that I'm from Watts. I think they thought that I was just the exception to the rule. Yeah. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I think it still befuddles people how people who come from little next to nothing can become the president of the United States, can become the top speaker of the nation, can become lawyers graduating from Harvard.
Yes.
I don't know why people are so surprised, because I think that your character and your attitude, in large part, is born out of circumstances that were rough and tough. That's why are we surprised when we open up people's autobiographies over and over again who came from little next to nothing and became the greatest at what they did? I think that that's in part why you become that.
Exactly.
So my attitude comes from the fact that I lived on 107th and Central, lived in the Nickerson Garden House.
They used to call South Central.
South Central, yeah. But my attitude comes in the fact that, no, I don't accept anybody else's definition of me. And I don't accept anybody else's narrative of my story. I'll write it. And I'll write it according to what I saw. And I saw greatness, or at least the desire for great. So I'm going to write my story that way. And however it ends up, my writing will articulate that I wanted to be the best. And every now and then maybe I was. But that's the story I'm writing.
Wow. Were you surprised being in Hollywood, what it was like to be an actor in Hollywood?
In some ways, yes, and in other ways, no. I was surprised with the business of acting.
Okay.
It didn't seem fair to me. And that's what the surprise was. I think I was a little naive because I was so young when I started out auditioning professionally and the chance to make money and be on TV and be in films. I just thought that your talent was what was going to get you a role.
Right.
Because that's what happens in theater. In theater, where there's not so much a focus on how you look, how tall you are. Do you have the chops? Do you have the skills?
Sure.
Then you audition, you've got the role. I came from that. When I came, when I came to Hollywood, it was a little different. There were politics that I didn't understand that were in play. And I realized that only until I understood that would I not be frustrated by not understanding why things happen. For example, my agents would call me over and over again and say, Will, you knocked it out of the park. They said you gave the best reading. So I'm waiting for the next thing to be, you're going to now get a paycheck because you're going to get the role.
Right.
They're going with somebody else.
Yes. See, by you having all this different kind of training and education, I mean, and you know this better than I do, it just made it just a very easy thing for you to do.
Yes. The transition was easy for me.
Yes.
When I got the roles, I was thinking, this is it?
Yeah.
That's all they want me to go in and audition with? No, give me monologues for pay. I do whole plays.
Wow.
And so when I went in to do that, I thought, okay. And they'd say, William, beautiful, great.
Yes.
And then I go and I'm thinking, so when the phone rings, it's going to be the role. And it wasn't. And that happened a few times, enough for me to say, this is going to be a hard road to hoe, because you don't know who's in the back room making the decision, and you don't know what they're basing it on. Because if they say you gave the best reading, but we're not hiring you, then what was the basis of it? Then I landed a role, and it was a big role in a miniseries that took me to Natchez, Mississippi, to be with Muhammad Ali and to play his son. And when I got that role, the equation changed for me.
And that was the movie that you were in 1979 that was called Freedom Road.
Freedom Road.
Right.
Freedom Road. Freedom Road was a big project for NBC. They had put a lot of money in it. They waited for Muhammad Ali's schedule to open up, because he was still fighting.
Yes.
In between fights, and this was before the second Spinks fight, I think, and they were casting this role, and they'd seen over 300 people. And then I walked into the room, and Jan Kadar, the Czechoslovakian director, after I read, had a cane. He walked around the table, and he grabbed me by the sides of my jaws, and he says, "We will be working together." That was it. And I thought, does that mean I got the role? It meant I got the role.
Right.
And when I was there, the treatment that I got from the network, from all of the people in publicity, from casting, told me, you ain't in Kansas anymore. This is a whole new ball game. And from that point on, every time I did an audition or every time I went in fact, I didn't do a lot of auditions per se. I would go in and do screen tests. Right. I'd be doing screen tests with whoever the lead was to play the son, the nephew, or whatever. And I was booking role after role after role. And the agency got so excited because they said, 80% of what we send you out on, you book. That's almost unheard of in Hollywood, especially for a young actor who's still relatively unknown. So then that made me feel like, well, then it's always going to be like this. But then there were periods where it wasn't like that. And I had to learn that too. So all of it was a learning process.
Goodness, because, okay, 79, you got your first break. 80, you worked The Jeffersons television series.
Yeah, it was my first comedy.
Yeah, first comedy. 81, you had a TV movie called Unit 4.
Yeah.
82, you had Fame.
Oh, yeah.
With Debbie Allen?
Yes, I had a recurring role on that as her love interest. Yeah. And that's where Debbie and I first met and became friends. And I loved it because Fame was one of those shows that every actor has a few shows that they want to do.
Yes.
And one of mine was Fame. I just said, oh, man, I just would love for the audition to open up for me to go in to see if I can get a role on Fame. And so they opened up the part of Robert as her love interest, and I ended up doing the show. And in fact, ended up doing 2 other projects with Debbie because we were under contract to NBC. And one of them was a prison movie, I think, Women of San Quentin. And we were love interests there. So that was kind of fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
83, you did 3 projects, Cagney and Lacey, Women of San Quentin, and The Day After.
Yeah.
84 came around, you had 4 projects that year.
Yeah.
You did Boys in Blue, The Dukes of Hazzard,
Oh, yeah.
Victims for Victims with Teresa Saldana.
Saldana, yeah.
And last but not least, A Soldier's Story.
Yeah, yeah. I was under contract at CBS, which is where those other projects came from. And then all of a sudden, now I had seen a powerful play called A Soldier's Play. And it was performed by the Negro Ensemble Company in New York. And I remember, Ron, when I saw that, I was sitting in the audience like any young black actor thinking, oh man, I wish I could, I want a part in there, anything. Just so they came to Los Angeles, and I called my agent and said, they're going to be at the Mark Taper Forum. Get me an audition. Whatever you have to do. And he says, well, there is no audition. They're bringing the whole company, the Negro Ensemble Company, here. So I came to see the play, and I met Charles Fuller, who wrote the play. And then that was it. Now, I'm doing these other things for CBS, and then I get a call. And my agent said, you got it. Norman Jewison wants to meet you. And I said, oh, okay. So I'm thinking it's the play. I wasn't listening. And so he says, now you're going to be going to Culver Studio here in town. And I said, wait a minute, to do what? He says, A Soldier's Story.
Right.
It's based on the play. They're doing a film now. He said, I couldn't get you in the play. He says, but hopefully you'll do the film. So I go and I meet Norman Jewison, who had seen me in a one-man show on stage and remembered me and asked to meet with me. So I go in, and when I go in, he sent me something that he wants me to do a screen test with. So I'm prepared. I've got my lines there. But we just sit down and we talk. And I meet Ron Schwarry, one of the producers, and everybody is sitting around the table from Columbia Pictures and talking to me and looking at me real strangely. So Norman Jewison said, so do you want to do something for me? As if it was an option. And I said, yeah. He said, well, then go ahead. And so I stood up, cameras roll. I do this thing. And after it's over, he says, Will, come here. And I come to the table. And he says, which part do you want in this? And I said, well, it has to be a rhetorical question because everybody wants that role, right?
Yes.
I want the role of Peterson. He says, you can't have it because Denzel's playing it. I said, well, I figured that. He tore it up. He says, but I do want you in this film, and I want you to play Henson. Is that okay with you? I said, is it okay? So that's one of the, I think that was the second role that I found out before I left the room.
Yes.
That unless the negotiation fell apart, that was it. I was being offered the job.
Wow.
And what a cast of actors. That was that was one of the 3 or 4 most pivotal projects I've ever done, Ron. Right. And we knew it because the way Columbia Pictures was treating this project and the publicity we were getting, LA Times, New York Times, the interviews I was doing, sitting around a swimming pool at the hotel in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Yes.
Something told me, again, you're not where you were before.
Right. Moving on up.
That's it. And then when the picture was nominated for the Academy Award,
Yes.
and there was the Oscars and the red carpet and all of that stuff, it was a part of a world that I was in, but I hadn't seen that part of it. And I was still so young that I felt that if you play your cards right, Will, you can really eke out a career here because the projects are just starting to pile up. And in a career where it's hard for any actor to get a gig, but especially for black actors.
Yeah.
And yet I was working all the time.
Yes.
I was working.
Yes.
And I was working with people who I knew. Now I'm at a level where I'm looking across at people and we're working on the same projects. I was working with Morgan Freeman. I was working with Denzel Washington. I was working with Oprah. I was working with James Earl Jones. I was working with Clarence Williams III. I was working with great writers. I was doing the projects that let you know you're at a level now where you're respected in this industry. And that's what you want. Because that respect is what gets you more work.
Right.
And especially work at a certain level without you having to jump through so many hoops. Yes. It's offered to William Allen. It's a screen test, and if he's okay, that's what we want.
Wow. Wow. When you did auditions, it's something that you have to do, unfortunately, most of the time.
Yeah.
What's your feelings about auditions?
Love, hate. I mean, the thing that doesn't make me shy away from them is that I work very hard to prepare for them.
Okay.
So when I go into that room to do the screen test, I'm ready. And when you're ready for something, you want to do it. Yeah. You say, bring it. You say, even though you may not want to jump through that hoop, but I'm ready to jump through that hoop. I'm sure athletes who train for the Olympics don't want to walk into a room and have somebody give them a gold medal. Really, they believe they're right for it. They believe they're the best. They want the opportunity to show that, and really the audition is a chance to show that. Once you've done a body of work enough, that should be your audition, because that shows that you can do it. Sometimes it works that way, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they still want you to come in and audition.
Right.
And that's the part of it, Ron, that is the hate part of it. I never could understand why actors who have a body of work,
Have to audition.
comedy, and I have a dozen reels for anything anybody wants to see: comedy, drama, film, television, stage. I have it all. There's the audition.
Right.
So at some point, you would figure, why am I jumping through the hoops? Who's in the room who hasn't seen me?
Right.
After 30 years, who have I not worked for? Who is in that room is saying, well, I have no idea who William Allen Young is. But if they say we still want him to come in and test, you go in and test. But again, I go through my process of preparation, and when I walk into the door, they see it in my eyes. They ask me, Will, do you have any questions about the part? I say, no, let me give you what I got. In other words, this is my interpretation. Just let me give you my take on this. And they say, oh, did you see the script? I saw the script. Any question about? No, I got the lines. I never go in with sides. Most actors do. I've done my homework. Let's dispense with the talking. Because it's on the tip. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm this character. Let me do this. And once I do it, most of the time it works. And I think that when it works, it's because of the process
Yes.
that I go. It's not like I walk in, oh, you look perfect for it. That's not enough. When I do it and they go, wow, they're seeing the process. And they're seeing a kid from 13 years old working, chopping wood, iron, sharpening iron, working with great talent, great directors, great writers.
1996. You got the role of Frank Mitchell on a new TV series called Moesha.
Yeah.
He co-stars with Shirley Ralph and a young lady named Brandy Norwood from Macomb, Mississippi.
Little
call
Brandy.
Miss Slip.
That's it. Yeah, we call her B.
Man, yes.
B. It was such an honor to do that show on so many different levels.
Yes.
I was playing an African American role model,
Right.
a father of a family, an unapologetic father. This was one of those roles that when I saw it and they wanted me to come in and test for it, I thought, man, I hope that the pilot goes. Because whether I'm doing it or not, we need a show like this. The Cosbys had come and gone. I didn't see anything else that was on the landscape that showed these black folk upwardly mobile, a father who's a professional, mother who's professional, kids going to school, getting ready to go to college. I didn't see that. I saw it with A Different World, a spinoff from The Cosby Show. So to me, television and film was void of those images. So I wanted to do it badly, but if it wasn't me, I wanted the show to go. And then when they called me and said, why don't you come in screen test? Brandy and Shirley are already set, and we're looking for this father. We just can't find him. I said, okay, where and when? And I start chopping wood to get ready. And when I went there, and Shirley I knew since Dreamgirls.
Yes.
And when we went in, Shirley and I went in together, and the chemistry was just so right on. And you know when you're an actor, because there's a third eye you have that's looking at the people who are looking at you.
Yes.
And Shirley and I both knew.
Oh, she's marvelous.
We just
She's
made some magic. So we kissed each other before we left. And you just wait after that. The phone rang before I even got home. My cell phone just blew up and said, Will, they want you. And that was the beginning of it. And when I went to CBS for the reading of the pilot, when we were just preparing to do the pilot, when I go into the sound stage, I see this little image coming at me and getting larger and larger as it gets close to me in silhouette. And then when she comes into the light, I realize it's Brandy. Brandy runs all the way up to me from a mile away and jumps on me and says, Daddy, Daddy. And when that happened, I thought, this is going to work.
Chemistry is right.
Oh, this is going to work.
Yes.
This is going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful show.
You did 127 episodes of that.
Yeah. That show is in the television museum, the American Radio and Television Museum. It is in there for all of the right reasons. I mean, it broke new ground.
Right.
It's the first show in television history
Right.
starring a young black female
Right.
coming of age in a role.
Right.
No other series has ever done that.
Touched it, no.
And Brandy played that character, and we were the Mitchell family. And I think the museum honored that because it takes its rightful place in history
Yes.
as an extension of all the Cosbys and shows like that set the table, and that just kept rolling, and just brought it into new times, a new attitude. But to me, playing the father on that show, everybody else's role was pivotal, but being this black man
Yes.
with this loving family,
Yes.
tough when he needed to be, but just so loving. And then his wife passes away. He brings in another wife. He gets married again. So it's rough sledding. So it spoke to even that.
Yes.
People who go through that, and you have to bring the family back together. To me, all of those statements were made loudly through Moesha. I'm so honored still to be a part of that.
I understand that Moesha was the number 16 best black sitcom of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah, it just. I still have to pinch myself, Ron, because you after the fact you want to do well, and when you find out that you do well, it's pleasing.
Okay.
Yeah.
In February 2013, you and Brandy had a reunion. Can we see that picture? Look at that picture. Pull that out, didn't Marie?
Oh man, I'm telling you, I love that.
Can you hold that picture there for just a minute?
I love that.
What she did, she sent a tweet. She tweeted this to the entire world. Here's what she said, quote, "I saw my second father, William Allen Young, on the set of the game today, and I literally lost it.
Yeah.
I could not stop the tears.
Yeah.
I immediately felt the love connection I always felt with him on the set of Moesha.
Yeah.
Dear God," unquote.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, when Brandy was in the makeup trailer,
Yeah.
and I was in my trailer getting dressed, and they said, "Will, come on in, we're ready to do your makeup." I walked into the trailer, and Brandy saw me in the glass and just screamed. It almost scared me. And she jumped up out of the chair and just jumped up into my arms, almost the same way she did when I walked into CBS for the reading of the pilot when she was just a kid. And she broke down and cried. And I mean, and hearing that quote, she wasn't ashamed to tell the world that she did. I mean, real tears. So everybody in the makeup trailer sort of just gave us some time because they realized this was a moment that we needed. We hadn't seen each other for a minute, and we just hugged each other. And we felt all of that joy. And I love Brandy to this day, as if she truly is the daughter that Helen and I never had. And I think that moment, those things don't need words. And that's why everybody in the makeup trailer saw it and just said, "We'll leave you guys alone for a minute." It was special. I love that picture, man.
I thought I'd bring that along.
Oh, come on,
Didn't
man.
tell you about that one.
You know how to make my day. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
William, you're something else. You never hear about you. No dirt, no scandal, nothing. Just good, positive things. How do you do that, sir?
I think it's just my life, Ron. And I think that the one thing I've always avoided is the part of Hollywood that, number one, John Houseman years ago told me about. Again, in that 10 minutes before I picked up the phone, he told me that stuff goes on.
Yes.
And he said that there's ways that you can get involved in it if that's what you want to do, but you'll lose yourself. He says, you don't have to do that, but do great work and go home. And that Cheryl Lee says the same thing to me. She says, "William, every time we do something, you say, 'No, I got to go home.'" There's a million parties that happen in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. Parties, yeah.
I've only gone to a couple of them. They were only associated with cast parties.
Right.
I don't do that Hollywood scene. I never did.
Yes.
And there are people who subscribe to the belief that if you wanted a career,
Right, gotta go to those parties.
you got to go to those parties.
Yeah.
You got a glad hand. You got to sit there and take pictures with this publicist, with that. You got. I was never taught that when I was coming up. Bea Richards, who was my teacher at Inner City, never told me that I had to do all of that. But John Houseman warned me. They're going to tell you, some people, that you don't have to, but do great work and go home.
Got you.
And I think that's not far from who I was anyway. So it wasn't that I had to just do that as a strategy in Hollywood. That was me. I go home. I've been married to my wife for 30 years.
Yes, you have, as of November the 8th.
No, look at you.
Years.
That's me going home,
Right.
man. That's me going home. There's a lot of temptations out there in Hollywood, and not exclusively Hollywood,
Right.
but Hollywood and entertainment, period, is a world that on every corner can hand you whatever you want or you don't want.
That's right.
It's true. I don't even have to pay for it.
Thank you.
It's out there, and it's been offered to me. over and over again. My mother's been with me sometimes when it was offered to me. Shame on those who prey on, but they know you have the money, and they think that that's what you came for. John Houseman said, go home, and I go home to this day. And that's why I'm not in the tabloids. You're not going to hear scandal. There's no divorces. There's no mistresses. None of that. None of that. And that's not just my business. That's my life, and hopefully that'll be my epitaph once I escape into another life.
What are you guys going to do for your 30th anniversary?
We don't know, but we're planning something big because we did a 20th anniversary.
Gotcha.
No, I take it back. We did a 25th. We did a silver.
Yes.
And so we were saying, at 30, will we do something? There's no specific thing for 30, but for us, it's a nice little trifecta. So we're planning to do something and invite family and friends and just all celebrate, because we feel that the success of our relationship in large part is because of the village that we belong to, the people who have helped to take care of our kids when we needed that, the people who have helped to mentor our kids, and the old community sense to spank them behind if they needed it when they were kids. But that is the group that we want to celebrate our union with, because we owe a debt to them.
You go out around the country, you give lectures, you being a USC alumni, you go and do a lot of things for USC. The black group over there, the black alumni, you work with them. In fact, that's how I first met you.
Yes.
You and I were doing a job. I was the announcer, you the MC.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
That
I heard the famous Ron Brewington voice, and I knew after that, I said, wow, this is the cat.
You get out there. And we got a video to show that recently you were at the African American Film Market.
The African American Film Market.
This is, God, I've been doing this show for maybe 12, 13 years, and the beauty of it is that it still exists. And to my mind, it's the only time, or one of the few times we have in this time, where we celebrate black filmmakers in a way that they deserve. And if you think about the absence of these kinds of events, there would be no such celebration. And when you think about the people that we've admired and got a chance to really showcase over the years, you think these are people who truly deserve what they've gotten, except for there's very few showcases where they get a chance to have their... So I'm just excited every year that we get a chance to do it. I'd love to see more of them, but in the absence of those other ones, I'm just glad that we do it this way.
Okay, great. And you're the master of ceremonies or host? What's the...
I'm the host, and
Okay,
I've been just for 12, 13 years now.
Okay, the idea here is, for this event, Sandra Evers Manley.
Yeah.
John Forbes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Sandra Evers Manley is one of those people so successful in the corporate world, but so committed to black artists that she said, we need to create the venues. Don't cry about what's not there. Create it. Make it. And so she unapologetically created this film festival, the S.E. Manley Film Festival, every year. And she asked me some years ago to host it, and I said, absolutely. I think that if we don't have people like that doing it, what we do is we have a lot of people complaining about what's not getting done. I'm not one of those. I don't subscribe to that. I just say, let's do it. Let's do it well, and that will be our footprint.
You have a new show now.
Yeah, proud of it, too.
Yeah. The role of Dr. Raleigh Guthrie.
Yes, Code Black.
Yes.
CBS.
Yes.
Yeah.
How'd you get the job?
I was under contract to CBS, and CBS was looking for an actor to fulfill this special role of Raleigh Guthrie, who is this sage doctor who's part of this ensemble cast of doctors and young interns trying to learn the ropes. And so they asked me to come in and screen test for it. And we did it at Disney. And I walked into the room and, as usual, shook everybody's hand. And in the room was Michael Seitzman, who was the show creator and showrunner, and the director, David Semmel. And then there were people from the network. And I did the screen test. And again, there's a third eye that's looking at the people who are looking at you while you're reading with the actor in the screen test. That eye told me, wow. And after it was over, they just stood there looking at me. And I remember David Semmel, the director of the pilot, said, you studied under John Houseman? Which apparently meant something to him. And I said, yeah. I said, in fact, John Houseman was my mentor for 3 years and my close friend. He brought me to Hollywood and I signed with his agency. And he said, you got to be kidding me. So I just thought, this thank God somebody knows who John Houseman is in this room. So that told me something about him. He was a student of this great business. And I think that also told him that I was no rookie to acting and performance. And since he had already seen the screen test, I just looked at them while they were standing there. I said, do you want me to do the second part of the screen test? There was a second part. He says, oh, yeah, if you'd like to. And when he said, oh, if you'd like to, something told me, this feels good. I think that I've impressed him. So I did the second one, and he said, wow, and that was it. And I walked out of the room. And they tested, I think, 5 actors. All of them very capable. I won't even name names. But if I name the names, everybody knows who we are after a certain point. And those are the only ones that they called in to test. And I got the call that day because there was a rush to get me in. And they asked if I could turn around and come back. And I couldn't because I had another commitment. But the next morning I was in wardrobe getting measured up and signing contracts, and that was it. I joined the cast.
The concept of a medical show, Dr. Kildare, Ben Casey, all those shows we grew up
on those.
We grew up on that. So, but I love the way with modern technology, the way they've got you guys in that operating room.
Oh, right.
I could swear you were in there actually cutting and sewing.
Yes, yeah, and that's the way they wanted to do it.
Yes.
So our show, Code Black, is based on a documentary of the same name, which actually was nominated for the Academy Award in the documentary category. And they actually wanted me to take a look at the documentary before I said yes or no, because they wanted me to understand how powerful this was going to be, and the fact that the network was committed to doing a TV series that looked exactly like the documentary. They didn't want to do a very vanilla, very sanitized, they wanted it to be dirty, they wanted it to be gritty. And that's why it was nominated, the documentary. It was so powerful. And so I looked at that and I thought, yeah, because I'm not interested in doing a sanitized version where everybody comes in the clean white smock. And no, that's not where we are now.
That's blood.
Yeah. So with the show, the idea was to do it like the documentary, to get down and dirty, 3 cameras, shoulder mounted, right in there with us, the camera crew right in there with us and among us while we're doing our job, while our hands come up bloody, while the heart is pumping, all of that. They wanted America to be brought into the room so that they could be not just a fly on the wall, but one of the surgeons. And because of that, I mean, people said, you read what the critics said about it, a roller coaster ride, phenomenal, engaging, touches you at the deepest levels. That's what they wanted, a show that really resonated so that you didn't feel like you could sit on the couch comfortably and just observe something that somebody else was doing, that you felt that you got pulled into the TV to actually get your hands dirty too. People say after they watch it, they're exhausted. That's the kind of show that it is.
Who did they put you guys up against at the other networks? Do you remember?
Oh God, let me see. The show that was on ABC was, I think, our stiffest competition, and that was, I can't remember. It was no, I take it back. I think it was NBC, and I think it was a fire show.
Chicago Fire.
I think it might have been fire. Yeah,
Chicago.
or PD or fire, one of those. And we knocked it out the park when we premiered. And I just thought, wow, that's the thing about TV and TV series is if it doesn't resonate with the audience in a way that they'll keep watching, especially the Nielsen family, you're not going to last. So the key was to come out big and to just keep hitting it. Yeah.
Will you have direct experience? You think maybe if you stay on this show, they might give you a chance to direct an episode?
I would love to. Yeah, when we were doing Moesha, it was in my contract, so I was both directing and starring as Frank Mitchell on the episodes that I directed. And the beautiful thing with the Directors Guild is they really fight for you to direct as a director of color. I was one of the co-chairs of the African American Steering Committee of the Directors Guild of America for 2 years. And one of the things that we fought for was to make sure that women, that actors of color at least got a shot, a chance to direct, and to direct the better shows. And the numbers didn't look good for the DGA. They've improved somewhat, but it's still tough to get directors of color to get a shot, to get their reel in there, to get the nod to direct the show. Because you need those shows, the quality shows on your reel, so that you can get the next quality show, the next quality show, and then the feature film. So I would love, our show is a show that I've studied now for a season, and studied all of the techniques that are employed by every director that's done the show. Already mapped out the show and talked about how I would work it and the angles, know the crew. So it would be a beautiful transition for me to get the nod to direct it. It's a good show, really good show. Tough one to direct, but yeah, I'd love to do it.
What do real doctors say when he beat you?
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of thank yous because, and not so much for me, but for the show as well. Just for doing it the way it's done in an ER trauma center. We're an ER trauma center, so I meet a lot of ER trauma doctors, and they're the ones that just say, wow. And they'll come up and they'll hug me. I've met some in airports. There was a group of nurses, ER trauma center nurses in the airport that came up to me and they were all hugging me. And I didn't even know they were ER trauma nurses. I just thought they were people who recognized me for some reason coming up and hugged me. And when they told me they were nurses, that was special because of the current show, Code Black. And they said the same thing, it is authentic. And authenticity is what Michael Seisman, the creator, was after, is what the network was after. So for them to say it, the people in the trenches, we must have really struck a nerve.
We only have a few moments left, but in '86 you founded the Young Center for Academic Achievement and Cultural Enrichment. That's quite a project.
Yeah. It's that's near and dear to my heart. I was one of those kids that came right out of the neighborhood that was a diamond in the rough and had not some people seen what I had potentially and worked to groom me and get me ready for the next level. I wouldn't have ended up at USC. I wouldn't have ended up doing television and film. I would have ended up probably struggling and maybe frustrated with no success. So what we do is we go into the neighborhoods where nobody is looking for anybody, and we find those potential success stories. We help students get to college, to get those scholarships, to go to USC, to go to Harvard, to go to Yale, to go to Princeton. We've had over 5,000 students come through our programs. We just saw our 2000th graduate who was at ASU, one of the students we had. We had Michael Tubbs, who was a sitting city councilman in Stockton. We had since he was 13 years old. We just take those students who we just see have such great potential, but some of them go to failing schools where they don't have access to programs. Most of them are economically deprived, so and they're in underrepresented communities. So what we do is we go in and we find them, we bring them to the college. We have a residence program at USC, so they live on campus during the summer. They study on campus. This, to me, is my commitment, not only to my community, but to the world. This is me paying it forward.
We have a photo. I want to take a look at it for a second that shows some of your graduates.
Yeah, those are some of our youth ambassadors. I won't out anybody, but in that group right there, there are 3 students whose parents live below the poverty level.
Wow.
One of them was homeless for a while. All of them came through our program, and we plucked them out. We put them in our ambassador leadership program. Those students represented their communities, their school district, and the state of California as California State Youth Ambassadors. They're among the only students officially recognized as official California State Youth Ambassadors, and they traveled to Sacramento to present their work that they collectively did on issues that were relevant to youth. They've helped to change some policy over the years for youth-related issues, particularly in education. There's other photos of them in the Department of Education with the superintendent. I mean, these students are shakers and movers, but again, nobody would have even known they existed because there are very few projects at any level of excellence that are looking for them. And when we found them, all of these students are not straight-A students.
Gotcha.
But they have powerful ambitions. They have dreams, and they really want to do something. They're smart. It's not just the straight A's. These are intelligent young people. You put them in the right environment, you water and feed them, miracles happen. And we're proud of that program. Zephanie Smith, who was over there on the right, who was one of the chaperones in that program, was herself a California State Youth Ambassador.
Wow.
Zephanie Smith just spoke at the United Nations. Right. She was one of 4 young ladies who spoke on the Women's Day at the United Nations. She was one of the African American women who spoke. Well, she was one of ours. Wow. Straight out of Stockton, come from a family they don't have much, and she also now works for the state government. She works in the Capitol building.
Okay. Who's the handsome man in the middle there? Assemblyman Ridley Thomas.
That's right. Yeah, Sebastian Ridley Thomas, and he was one of the. He actually presented them on the assembly floor when they were officially recognized by the entire legislature. He was the one who asked, and we said yes, we would be honored for you to present. It was unusual. He was a junior legislator, and before that, Karen Bass was one of our big supporters when she was the speaker. Also, Fabian Nunez when he was the speaker. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of our biggest fans.
I'll be back.
Yes, and met with us every year. Yes. We went up there privately with the youth ambassador. So that's one of our other programs that we run. We also run the California Youth Think Tank, and that's the one on the campus at USC. We also run what was the Saturday College Academy. It's now the College Prep Academy at USC. So the students, I use the conduit of USC because I'm an ambassador for USC. So in partnership, our students come through USC. They don't have to go on to USC. Like I said, our students are at over 75 different colleges and universities they've been accepted to. Today, our students, number I mentioned, over 5,000, but they're all over the place. But a lot of them go on to USC, and it's that most of them are first-generation college students. So being on campus in a residence program, some of them break down the first day, and we just have to hold them because they said, I can't believe I'm here. Right. I'm here.
No experience for that.
No. Yeah. Don't have to pay anything else. You're here. And that you're there and you walk into the library and you have your card. Yes. Can you think of how easy it is to make the leap in their mind from being there in this summer residence program to say, I can do this. I belong here. And if not here, what a great example of any college that I want to go to. So it's a powerful experience.
I saw your website. It looks great. Can you give us the URL on that website, please?
So it's www.theyoungcenter.com. And if anybody wants to reach us by email, it's theyoungcenter, 4, U, @gmail.com. Theyoungcenter 4U @gmail.com.
Are there any limits for William Allen Young?
If you ask me, no. But again, you're talking to the same kid who's still a little naive enough to have the audacity of hope and the belief that I can do all those things. I know it's not realistic, but every challenge I go in believing that I can do it and I can be successful at it.
How do you want to be remembered?
A couple of ways. I really want to, because we need this, to be remembered as a great father and a great husband. And that, to me, is the piece that speaks to family. I want to be remembered as a great contributor to our society, because that speaks to the social responsibility that I hope everybody feels that they have to give back. And then artistically, I'd like to be remembered for the body of work that I put out there. And I won't call that anything. I'll just let people look at that. And if it's excellent, if they feel that way, then that's fine. But I want that body of work to speak for me. That's why I'm proud of projects like Moesha and Code Black. Those ways, professionally, socially, and then personally in my family. I want to be remembered as those things. And that's enough of a footprint to say I was here, Ron. I just want to be able to say William Allen Young was here.
Well, sir, I'm glad that you were here today. Thank you so much for coming over.
And thank you again for having me.
We're going to bring you back again because you just scratched what you do, man.
Well, I tell you, I don't take it lightly, and I thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me your time.
Always,
this is your time as well.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I want to thank you all for sticking with us today, and we'll see you next time. Take care.